The murder of JonBenet Ramsey is one of the most widely discussed and talked about cold cases in American and probably world history. Uh, so many things about this case intrigue and just interest people, which is why people keep coming back and back to the case because there's so many compelling parts of this case, and we're gonna get into it. Uh, my name is John. This is my first video. This is my channel. If you like what you're seeing, like, don't subscribe. It's not worth it. But comment what you want me to talk about next. I talk about anything, cold cases, uh, any kind of like mysteries, conspiracies, assassinations. I even talk about football. I like football. But yeah, it's my first video, and yeah, we're gonna talk about the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. And oh yeah, and so the main part of this is coming from a school paper essay that I did on her and her murder, and it was mainly based around psychology of it and how forensic psychology can be applied. So if it seems like some of it is kind of twisted towards that, that's why. This is my dog. Um, so yeah, I'm not just gonna read straight one for one. I'm gonna read from it, comment, talk about it a little bit, because I say I do know a decent amount of this case just from learning about it in different classes I've taken throughout high school and just my own interest in the case. So yeah, I'll hit you with the basics and then go into the details of the case a little bit later on. And then we're gonna get into some of the like the evidence, the theories, who I think did it, and just all that. This should be a quick little video, kind of. It's my first video. I just want to edit it. It's a teaching. It's a learning process. So I know if anyone has any tips for me at all, like how to get I have a mic right here. If how to make the audio better, how to get the cameras going better. Because right now I'm using my phone as a webcam, just right here with a flash on, and you can tell trying to get the focus on me, and I got like lights up there that change color. It got everything in the background. Got my Eagles flag, diffuser, whatever. If anyone has any tips for me, that'd be great. Be awesome. All right, let's get into the cold case. So some basic info. JonBenet Ramsey was a 6-year-old girl who competed in beauty pageants and just kind of stuff like that. The weird stuff when moms who kind of weren't called beautiful enough when they were kids, they kind of get their kids into, and they're just kind of living through their kids. Basically, her mom made her do all that, right? And so she was kind of famous. I wouldn't say like really famous, but she was locally famous for sure. Famous kind of around the state and in the beauty pageant show, like little clique they had. And yeah, so she was kind of well known. She had admirers. She had people around the country who kind of knew her and liked her. Think of JoJo Siwa kind of, but like much younger. Yeah, she was only 6 years old at the time of her death, and she lived in, let me check, Boulder, Colorado. And yeah, she was the daughter of a wealthy businessman named John Ramsey. So whenever I'm talking about them, I'm going to say John Ramsey and JonBenet Ramsey, because I don't know if it's pronounced JonBenet, but it kind of sounds French, so it's French now. So John Ramsey and then JonBenet Ramsey. Or I might just say JonBenet. And her mother, the one who forced her to do all this pageant stuff, was Patsy Ramsey. And let me just tell you, Patsy Ramsey, rough. At one point, JonBenet Ramsey said that all the trophies she wins from all the beauty contestants and stuff, it's not her trophies, it's her mom's trophies. That's the kind of family we're dealing with here. It's terrible. You'll see. Alright, I got a little bit new lighting. It's a little bit softer on my eyes, doesn't hurt as much to look up at. So, hold up. So, yeah, she was kind of privileged. her dad was a wealthy businessman, and her mom was a patsy. Terrible joke. So she had an older brother named Burke Ramsey who lived with them at the house, and he was a little, you know, not all there. I'm just not even looking at the camera anymore. He was a little bit weird, a little bit off, but you can't say that because the family was wealthy or a little bit weird. They didn't have love for each other. They definitely did have some kind of twisted love for each other, but yeah, they were rich, they were spoiled. In fact, the Christmas, she died the day after Christmas, or the 26th, so I guess Christmas Day, or the day after Christmas Day, I don't know. She basically, so she died either the day of Christmas or the day after Christmas, the 26th of December in 1996. So that Christmas they had been given a bunch of toys, like so many toys. They were spoiled. They had everything. These parents, they love their kids because they got them so many things. Anyway, back to the actual case itself. On the morning of December 26, 1996, the Ramsey family awoke to find the dead body of JonBenet Ramsey. But back to the actual case itself. On the morning of December 26, 1996, the Ramsey family awoke to find that JonBenet was missing out of her bed, gone. No trace of her, except for a ransom note that was found on the stairs leading down to the family's living room. The note claimed to be written by a terrorist faction, and the terrorist faction demanded that $118,000 be given to them in order to have JonBenet Ramsey, given back to them safely. You gotta keep that number in mind. Keep that very specific number in mind, because 118,000, that's just random, right? But the note also said that if any police or anyone else were involved, then she would just be killed, dead, gone. And yeah, basically pretty standard ransom note, I feel like. Give me money, tell no one, dead. So upon hearing that no police should be involved, Patsy Ramsey immediately called the police. You can find her phone call anywhere online. It's a pretty famous phone call, I'd say. It's not famous, but like if you know the case, you know the phone call. It features her and John Ramsey and arguably Burke Ramsey in the background, kind of just freaking out about her being missing. And not only did they call the police, but they also called numerous of their close friends and probably some of their not close friends, as they just wanted everybody to know JonBenet was missing. So the friends that they invited actually got there before the police did, and so their friends just kind of like, or I guess they were there at the same time as the police, but their friends came to help search. And when the police did get there, the only thing they felt the need to preserve in the house was her bedroom itself, because she presumably went missing from the bedroom. So and at this point, it was not suspected that she was in the house at all, so why take any evidence from the rest of the house? At least that was their thinking. I mean, nowadays you probably close off the entire house. All those friends they just invited, gone, out the window, leave. Figure out what's happened with this poor girl. But back then, all they did was cut off her bedroom. So while the bedroom was being cut off, John Ramsey and a couple of the friends, the men, were searching around the house, and they came across a door that was locked. When the police had been searching the house, they didn't cut off the rest of the house, but they did search it. They did like a light little walk around, like, oh, what's that? But they came across a room that the police hadn't gone in because they said it was locked, so it wasn't worth going into. Well, the family unlocked it, and a couple of the family friends and John Ramsey walked into the basement of the house. And can you guess what they found? Yeah, okay. So So big cut there, but essentially I moved my mic around a little bit, got more lighting, and yeah. So can any of you guess what they found in that basement? Okay, so what they found was JonBenet Ramsey. Her body was found in the basement. And so when John Ramsey and a couple of his friends found the body, the first thing they thought to do was to bring the body into the house where Patsy was and the rest of everyone. And this is a little side note that I don't know if it's in the notes or not, or if it's just like separate, but basically whenever, and I don't have a source for this one, this could be completely made up. Whenever John Ramsey was bringing the body into the house where Patsy Ramsey was, apparently the first thing she thought was that he killed her. She thought he's killed her. And that just kind of shows where their mindset was at the time, if you believe what she is saying. That's the first thing that she thought, when she saw that. And that's just kind of crazy. But because they'd found her body in the basement, it became pretty evident that she'd never left the house and that she had been killed inside the house. And so much stuff happened. The police came by, but by then everything was contaminated because John had brought her from the actual scene of the crime and had covered her in a blanket to show respects to her. It's his daughter, right? But this move would later be looked back and be like, was he trying to like mess up the evidence? We never know. But basically, he had contaminated the crime scene so much that a lot of the DNA evidence is kind of like wishy-washy. And yeah, the police came, shut everything down. Friends go home, go get a drink or something. Can't be here. This is a crime scene. Her body got took for autopsy. Her body got taken for autopsy, and it revealed the autopsy revealed that she had been strangled to death. And that she had a skull fracture from blunt force trauma, and there was also signs of sexual assault. The cord that was used to strangle her was found inside the basement along with her body, and it was determined that it was the cord that had strangled her. And along with some of the DNA evidence that was used to determine that it was a sexual assault, they also found that she had pineapples in her stomach because she'd eaten pineapples. And yeah, the DNA was found during the autopsy too. The DNA, you know what I mean, DNA. And trying to be respectful towards her, it was nut. But yeah, so I just looked at the first part of the video and I saw that the camera looked terrible, and I'm hoping that this should have fixed it a little bit. Turn on autofocus. So it should have fixed it a little bit. Maybe I'm just too pasty. Maybe I have too much light on me. I don't know. I also figured out that the mic was really, really quiet. So I hope I fixed it. I hope it's not too loud. I'm going to try to fix it during editing. I just hope. This is the best I can do is hope. Yeah, we will get back to the case. Okay. So as I said before, this case is one of the most famous cold cases in American history. And one of the reasons that it is so intriguing to people is the likelihood that the murderer was someone in the family. Either the mom, Patsy Ramsey, the dad, John Ramsey, or the brother, Burke Ramsey. And there is evidence to show that it was one of them or all of them. There's a decent amount of evidence to say that something fishy is going on involving the family. Although none of them have ever officially gone to jail and been legally held accountable for the murder. There are a decent amount of people that believe that it's them, despite there being some evidence that it wasn't them, and despite everyone wanting to believe that a family wouldn't want to kill their prized darling of a child. But we'll get into some of the reasons why. I'm going to turn this up just a slight bit. We'll get into some of the reasons why they believe that someone in the family did it. We're probably going to start with Burke, the brother, probably. Sorry, I just wasn't looking at the camera. We're going to start with Burke, because this is who I personally believe did it, if someone in the family did it. If someone in the family didn't do it, then we will literally never know. Deathbed confession or not, it won't matter. We will never 100% know who did it or not. That's just apparent. Very apparent. It became very apparent very soon after the crime happened. But I personally think if someone in the family did do it, it was the brother. Okay, so we'll get into that now. So I will set up the theory for why they think... I'm going to stop moving. I will set up the theory for why they believe that it was Burke Ramsey. So Burke Ramsey was said to be a little weird, a little... allegedly. They're alive, so allegedly he was a bit weird and probably a little jealous that his sister was the star of the family. And yeah, so maybe one day after maybe seeing her Christmas presents, he got a little bit angry and he got into a fight. And if you'll remember, JonBenet Ramsey had a skull fracture as well as strangulation and sexual assault. So it's assumed that if it was Burke, that maybe they got into a fight while he was feeding her some pineapple. He got into a fight, donked her on the head, and you know where it goes from there. And if you want to include the parents in it, maybe you could say that Patsy and John Ramsey figured out what happened and they tried to cover up for their kid. I mean, they'd already lost one kid. They don't want to lose another. And so that leads us into some of the evidence. If you were to examine the handwriting of the terrorist's note left for the family, then you would see that it is very similar to the handwriting of one Patsy Ramsey. They compared the handwriting to that of Burke and John Ramsey and found that no similarities. But when it was matched with Patsy Ramsey, it was shown to have many similarities, but it was inconclusive. It wasn't 100% that's hers. Because, if you're right... If you can hardly ever get 100% conclusive when it comes to handwriting, because especially if you're trying to cover up that your handwriting, like if you're trying to write a note from a terrorist faction, you would probably change it up, but it'd be hard to mask some of the little quirks of your writing that you've been doing since you were a kid. And so the theory goes that after Burke maybe allegedly hurt his sister, his parents wanted to cover up for it, and she wrote the note, because again, the pen and paper are 100% confirmed to be from inside the house. JonBenet Ramsey never left the house, and it said that it was snowing very heavily that night. And so if the way it was snowing, from what I've read, is that if there was someone to go in windows, doors, whatever, you would see their footprints left in the snow. You would see there was no footprints, nothing in the snow. So all this says that maybe it wasn't someone from outside the house. It was Burke. And the mom and dad found out and started covering up for him in order to kind of not lose the last kid that they have. And so the mom wrote the letter from inside the house. They planted her body downstairs. And this is completely ignoring the sexual assault part. I don't know exactly what evidence they have other than the DNA saying that it was a sexual assault, but we'll get into the DNA later because there's some evidence with the DNA that shows that if the DNA is the only evidence for sexual assault, then that's just out of the window. It doesn't matter. But if there's physical showing that there was sexual assault, then this theory gets kind of messed up because that means someone in the family, to her, either before or after she was alive. But assuming that it was just DNA evidence they got from the sexual assault theory part of the autopsy, then this theory still holds up. So they would have put her body downstairs, gone to bed, and woke up and found that she was missing and planted the note. And there's one more part of this theory that I want to add. It's that in the phone call that Patsy Ramsey placed, it's just her and... the story is that her and John Ramsey found the body and that Burke was still asleep and that he woke up when everyone else got there. But if you listen to the call, you can kind of hear a background voice that's not John. It's 100% confirmed, not John Ramsey, not Patsy Ramsey. So if there was someone else there, it had to have been Burke. But he was supposed to be asleep at that time, right? So why is he heard talking? It sounds like, in my opinion, it sounds like he's trying to say that he did it. I know it's hard to say. It sounds like maybe he was trying to say something to the cops, like, oh, I hit her or something. Because you can kind of hear him start to speak up and then her go, like stop him. Like maybe he was trying to be like, oh, I hit her. And she was just like, stop it. So could just be a giant cover up. And that is the theory that Burke did it. And I'll introduce a little bit more evidence, but that is kind of like, from what I've seen, reading, research, everything, that is sadly the main theory when it comes to these with this family, is that the brother did it or someone in the family did it. It's saddening if it's true, but if not, then they're an innocent family and I'm gonna get sued, so that's cool. Just to add, I do notice that the camera's lagging a lot. It's because I'm using an iPhone, and my phone is not. I just connected it with a cord. It was using Bluetooth, so hopefully that'll. It's my first video. Okay, leave me alone. It's gonna look bad. It just is. But yeah, to get back to the case. So this is where the paper being written in a forensic psychologist's twist kind of messes it up, because I say that the family theory gets almost completely eliminated if you believe what forensic psychologists said. And what they said is that they examined everything and they found that the family was not acting in any odd way and that they were acting the way that a normal family who was having a missing child would act. That's if you believe what a couple of forensic scientists believe. In my paper, I said that they're probably completely 100% right because I had to write that. But what I believe, Burke probably did it. And some of the other theories is about the intruder. They snuck through the window, took her to the basement, killed her, left the ransom note, and hoping that they would send the money before they checked the basement. And if you look at the amount of money, the 118,000, the reason that specific number doesn't really make sense, or does make sense, is because John Ramsey had recently just got a bonus at work of 118,000. So whoever left the ransom note had some inside knowledge on how much he made. So yeah, that's why I think it kind of adds to the family thing, because they were like, oh, how much should the ransom be? Oh, I bet somewhere published that I just got a Christmas vote bonus of 118,000. Maybe we should put that in there. So maybe they just slapped it on there, or maybe the terrorists heard that this was happening, the amount of money, thought that they could get a quick buck from his bonus, and kidnapped and killed the daughter. But that's if you believe the terrorist part. And if I was to go into that there's a third intruder thing, I would have to be here all day. There's so much to this case that it would just be impossible for me to cover every piece of it in a video that's shorter than 2 hours. Like, in all these videos you see of people talking about them being an hour long, an hour, like 30 minutes, they're not covering everything. They're covering the small pieces, and they're spinning it the way they want it to. And I'm kind of doing that too, because I believe it was probably Burke. But if you really want to look into it, there's so many great sources. There's so many great websites that talk about it in detail. There's plenty of good videos. There's one by the Casual Criminalist, and there's one by BuzzFeed Unsolved. They have some pretty good videos. But basically, there's so much going. All right, so I don't know if you heard that, but there was something going on in the background. But basically, I cannot sit here and explain every single piece of evidence. I just can't. I won't. I don't have the time for that. It's not possible. But that's the you kind of get the intrigue of the case, why people are into it so much. Like, the case is over 20 years old, and there's still people making videos about it right now. Me. Other people are making videos about it. The interest and the intrigue is just so alluring. So I just think that maybe I could make another video talking about some of the other theories and introducing some more of the evidence. But if this video gets more than like 25 people watching it, maybe it'd be worth my time. But yeah, I mean, that's really it. I doubt that we'll ever really know what happens. I doubt we'll ever really figure out who did it, any of that. It's just not gonna happen. The people involved, actually involved, have mostly moved on. So it's sad, but we're never gonna figure out what happened. You're gonna have to be in heaven to figure out what happened. First thing you ask God when you get to heaven is what happened to JonBenet Ramsey. So yeah, it's sad she's not gonna ever get justice, but I personally believe it was her brother, allegedly. So I just saw the camera lag. Yeah, that was my first video. If you want me to talk about anything, I guess, let me know. I'll talk about it, probably. I mean, yeah. And if you want me to expand some more upon this topic, shoot me a text. Not a text. Shoot me a comment. Don't text me. That's weird. Shoot me a comment. Just let me know. Alright? Everyone there, everyone watching, have a good day.